So debugging Go microservices with Skaffold and Telepresence. And this is actually a talk I was working on. I submitted it to GopherCon EU to see if I can give it there. And I've been looking for places to practice it. And so about me, I'm Peter. I'm a developer advocate for a company called Ambassador Labs. In the past, I've done product education, customer success, network engineering. I learned to code about 2 years ago from a coding boot camp called Coding Dojo. You can find me pretty much anywhere with the handle Peter ONeill Jr., Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, GitHub. I do the digital nomad trend where you work and travel at the same time. Currently hanging out in Costa Rica. And so the Go noob, but the team expert, it was one of those things where it's like, they asked who wants to try to build something in Go, and then since then it's just been like, now everything that we need to do with Go and interface with the Go community, everything kind of goes through me now. So become the go-to Go person for my team, which has been a lot of fun. All right, and so kind of high-level overview, kind of breaking this down into 3 little parts: cloud-native development workflows, developing with a container-first mindset, testing loosely coupled microservices. So like with Go, being connected to all the other microservices, how do you test it properly, and then debugging the Go service in production. And so a little bit more detail. So development workflows for Kubernetes. So when you're writing the application, it's kind of having that container first mindset. So building, tagging, and pushing everything. And so I'm going to be using a tool called Skaffold, which kind of makes this pretty easy. It'll take the Go application that I'm going to show in a bit, and then kind of turns it into a container and pushes it out to Kubernetes. And then testing the microservices with all their dependencies. So getting that full view of everything, how they work together. So I'm going to use Skaffold, and then Skaffold to turn the Go application into a container, and then Telepresence to connect it to a remote cluster to kind of give it the full picture with all the dependencies. And then the last part, debugging services in production. So prod containers are standard, scratch built from scratch, just a simple Go binary, missing a lot of the debugging tools and functionality. So kind of showing a way that you can use other tools to send traffic from your production clusters down to your machine and debug your Go microservice with the IDEs that you like and the tools that you like to kind of get that traffic locally, so you can do a lot more than you would if just working with your production cluster. And so with that, the demo. So wait, oops, how do I go back? Skip this and go over here. Okay, so on the left here, I have Docker Desktop running in this window, and I have a GKE cluster running in this window. So this has a sample application. This should have nothing. Yep. And yep. And so show code now. So here we are. This is the Go microservice we're going to be working with. It's a fairly simple microservice, has a couple of global variables, which are used to feed a front-end service. So if you change this blue variable, it changes a front-end service that pulls from this Go microservice. If you change this environment variable, this gets pulled out of it. And then so here we have a bunch of endpoints: get color, get environment, get record count, get merge. And so these are all just the endpoints to kind of pull these variables out of this Go microservices. This was one of the first things I ever wrote in Go. So there's definitely things in here I look at it now and go, I could make this much better. But yeah, this is what we're going to be working with. This is kind of the overall picture of it. This is the front end service, the data processing service in Go here, and then a very large data store which has data that the data processing service pulls stuff from. And so with that, we do quick show, like this is the Skaffold config. This is just building the Go data processing service as a container. That's all that it's going to be doing. So we'll go over here, do Skaffold dev. Dun, dun, dun. And so while that's pulling, what I'm also going to do, actually, let me actually wait for this finish. So and so with that, now it is it's compiled my Go application shown here as a container, so that is running. So now if we curl on localhost, we can see that it's spitting out the log entries. So that shows up here, this is running in blue, but I change it to orange. It'll recompile the container and it'll start spitting out orange. So kind of just showing that very container first mindset when working with your Go microservice. And then, all right, so next I'm going to connect in Telepresence to kind of show how to test this container with a remote cluster, as I showed before. This is the remote GKE cluster that kind of has the full application. So I'm going to use Telepresence to intercept the data processing service, which is the Go service running on port 3000. Actually, I don't think I showed that it was running on port 3000. So let me just do that real quick. So k get all. So this is the Docker desktop, and it shows that it exposed that service on port 3000 here. And that's why I am intercepting on that port. So now I'm intercepting. So this is curling to localhost, and then if I'm curling on service. So what this is now, since Telepresence is connected, the DNS names are actually being pulled from the cluster so that I can hit them directly. So if I go very large Java service, which is the front end service, right? This is now this is hitting the front end service, which in turn hits the data processing service to make requests. So now we see that those requests are coming into my local machine. And so just to show this a little more clearly, go back to the browser. And we can see that this is running environment says Telepresence, and it's an orange, which we set here. So it's pulling these variables into my sample application. And so with that, the last part that I kind of want to show here is going to be the debugging part. And so what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to stop this now. And go into here. So, all right, that is running. I'm going to go here and run this in debug mode. Oops. Let's see, password. Let's make sure that's running on the host. Yeah, okay, cool. So that is running. And just want to make sure that everything is working. Yep, okay, cool. So now it's running in my IDE. So this is now coming down to from the cluster, remote cluster, being sent to my local machine. But now I'm able to run this in debug mode and do things like set breakpoints, make those same requests, and catch them and kind of walk through and see, oh, am I getting the correct color that I want? And am I getting the correct environment variables that I want? And then it allows me to get much more fine-grained control over debugging with the remote, with my remote cluster, and how it interacts with my front-end service or a back-end service or any other service that will want to call onto my local service, and how everything kind of plays together. So with that, does anyone have any questions? So yeah, I'm gonna go back to my slide, and kind of just show these were the tools we were working with: Kubernetes, and Kubernetes on Docker, and then Kubernetes on GKE. Skaffold, which is an open source tool by Google, which is pretty cool when building containers and stuff. And then Telepresence by Ambassador Labs, which allows you to connect your local dev environments to your remote clusters. And then so this is just me. If you ever want to tweet at me, Peter ONeill Jr. is